So I'd like to talk a little bit about language, because the words we use are really important. And this word in particular is one that I find fascinating: unreasonable. We immediately think, associated with a woman, this is not a good thing. You are an unreasonable woman. Well, I am an unreasonable woman. I'm unreasonable because I am an optimist. I believe in making things real. And I believe the world is full of good intentions that never are realized because there aren't enough of us unreasonable people around. Partnership is another word. Partnership, we all think something equal, but actually most partnerships involve inequality. And it's a question of how you deal with that inequality that defines whether that partnership will become a positive one or a negative one. We're talking about the 8th MDG goal, and Barefoot College is really addressing all but one of the issues that has been highlighted as important within this challenge: developing further an open, rule-based, predictable, non-discriminatory trading and financial system, addressing the special needs of the least developed countries, addressing the special needs of landlocked developing countries and small island developing states, dealing comprehensively with debt problems of developing countries, and in cooperation with the private sector, make available benefits of new technologies, especially information and communications. Now, we're just a little NGO. We're 40 years old, and you've learned a little bit about what we do, so I'm going to tell you a little bit more. But the critical thing to remember here is that size of an organization does not by any means define its ability to make impact if it has created an ecosystem of positive partnership. We face unreasonable challenges. This is our challenge. How do we empower her to change our world? This is water for most of the developing world. This well in Myanmar gets water only about 2 months of the year, and more than 25 children out of 400 died last year just in one small village from waterborne disease. This is a kitchen in much of the developing world. I show these images so that you can put your mind into the problem. This is a house for 10 people in 2 rooms in Malawi. This is a toilet in the developing world, and this, sadly, a babysitter and childcare in most of the developing world. 50% of the world lives on less than $2.50 a day, and there are 1.6 million people without access to light. For them, light looks like this. They deliver babies to this. They try to educate their children to this. It's pretty much an impossible and unreasonable situation. 49 of the least developed countries make up 12% of the world's population, and 80% of the poor live in rural areas. This is the reason we focus at Barefoot College on rural areas. More than 75% of the world live on less than $1 a day, with no access to clean drinking water, no access to education, and no access to electricity. Who are the worst hit? Women. Without these things and without a level playing field, they will never realize their potential. You've heard a lot, I'm sure, tired of hearing about women, but here's the reality of what it is. 80 cents of every dollar a woman earns, she returns to her family. That is 80%. And we know most of that is returned for education. Education, which you've heard through every presentation, is the key to shifting systemic change. 40 cents of every dollar a man earns in the developing world returns to his family. So who would you rather bet on? Change is going to happen with her, with more money in her pocket and more ability to leverage her power to shift and change her community, her family, and her country. So at Barefoot College, you heard about our women's solar electrification process, but what I'd like to highlight that's important about this process and why it is so transformational is because the phenomenon of placing a perceived high technology into the hands of women not only empowers her in a way that we can't even measure and describe and on so many levels, but it changes the way her entire community looks at her and regards her. She is then a professional. She is doing a job traditionally relegated to male. This is a movie, but I don't think we can show it because I don't think it will play on its own, so we're going to skip over it. So this is a picture of one woman. Her name's Moshamba. She's a Swahili woman from East Africa before she came to us, and this is a picture of her after. So when we talk about transformation of a woman, we don't just talk about learning a few skills. We talk about an individual who is realizing their potential and who now sees no limits. Empowerment leads her to be able to drive change in her family, in her community, in her country. How do we scale this, and how does it work? So each of our grandmothers is able to train other grandmothers. She solar electrifies 50 houses and then goes on to train as many people in her village as line up outside her workshop, which is usually all the young men, obviously, between ages 16 and 20, who also want to learn what she knows. I can assure you, they would never have been lined up outside their grandmother's door to learn something from her before that. So she becomes a trainer and able to multiply this effect. She becomes an entrepreneur because she's paid a salary from her village to repair and maintain the equipment. So she's a professional. We keep hearing, again in the language, about how we have to give women chances. We have to empower women, but actually, women will empower themselves. They create their own chances and they create their own entrepreneurial skills if all we do is give them an open door and catalyze a creation of an ecosystem around them that lets them really realize their own potential. It's 2 and 3 generations of change that we're talking about being able to affect, because no young girl in her village will ever look at themselves the same. Their horizons are changed forever. So in 2008 at the college, this was our map. We were operating in 5 countries. And today, we are operating in 52 countries, 54 actually. We've trained over 700 women as solar engineers and are saving more than 5 million liters of kerosene annually. And this is just one small NGO that has an operating budget of less than $600,000 a year. Growth like that, which is, even by commercial standards, exponential, requires a temporary loss of security. I love this quote, because somehow we have the idea that businesses take risk, but that human organizations dealing with human issues don't take the same risk, don't have the same critical thought process, and don't have to challenge themselves even more about how they are going to grow and scale and build the partners around them that can make that happen. There are 875 million illiterate people in the world, and 80% of them are women. So the challenge just got bigger and tougher. As an organization, we understood when the women finished their training, what they wanted most was to become literate. Not in English, but in their own language, so that they could function at a higher and more effective level in their own culture. So we started innovating. Now, we innovate every day. If you know anything about Indian organizations, you know that innovation is on a shoestring, is one of the things that they do best. So we wake up every day asking what we don't need, as opposed to asking what we do need. So it was a real challenge for us to start thinking about how to integrate a solution into our programming that actually would address this critical need for literacy. So we started thinking about what her role was in the whole cycle. And you see her here at the outside of this circle. So she's very much only having a direct path of communication to her partner, solar engineer, who came to train with her, same language, same village. The rest of the world, she's not really connected to her other partners. We wanted to put her in the position she deserved to be, in the center of that partnership, so that she was the catalyst and she was the way that was going to spread information and contact between all the other partners. So in order to do this, we needed to come up with a type of technology. It was a long process to design a piece of technology that would cross this literacy barrier. What we've evolved is an intuitive tool, a cross between a phone and a tablet, and it allows her to communicate without being literate. It also delivers information and software that is a learning platform for her that she can self-narrate. It's audio, visual, and audio-visual, and it allows her to then replicate whatever skills she's learned and pass them to other illiterate people. It has her manual on it so that she can troubleshoot while she's in the field, so that if there's new technology we need to let her know about, we can transmit that to her. She can speak to her other solar engineers all over the world, all 700 of them, and she can cross language lines, and she doesn't need to read to do it. She can use voice and pre-recorded message prompts in order to connect with other people. And lastly, we integrate a literacy program into this, so not only can she learn, but she can also then run and transfer that knowledge to other people in the village. It's just an example of what happens when you come together with the right partners. In this case, the partners who we came together with were Google, Microsoft, Sundance Film Institute, the Skoll Foundation for Social Enterprise, and those are just a few. Solutions, there's a great Gandhi quote which says, "Men often become what they believe themselves to be. And if I believe I cannot do something, it makes me incapable of doing it. But when I believe I can, then I acquire the ability to do it, even if I didn't have it in the beginning." I think one of the biggest drawbacks in creating positive partnerships between private and not-for-profit sector is that we often set the bar too low. Corporate world often underestimates our ability in the NGO world to be innovative, to create sound solutions that come from solid thought and a very, very well strategized approach. And likewise, we in the NGO world have a deep suspicion for how and why corporate entities want to connect with us and want to do business with us. This is a tricky word for us, business. I believe that solutions must be mission embedded. In order to achieve results, you cannot have a mission that stands aside from what you do. Your mission must be what you do. And companies who bring these two things together, any organization, in fact even families that bring these things together, arrive with cohesive forward movement. We talk about solutions, but this is a bit of a design process when we're talking about solutions, because it doesn't just happen in a linear way. You have to create the right kind of environment and the right kind of partners around you to arrive with the best solutions. You need to have open dialogue. You need to take risk. You need to show creativity. You need to be genuine in your desire to arrive with a solution. And you need to have a fair bit of courage. Anita Roddick, the founder of The Body Shop, wrote a great book called Take It Personally. I am from the generation when I graduated from university when everybody was saying, "Oh, don't take it personally, it's only business." But actually, we must take it personally. What we do cannot be separated from who we are. These things must be one and the same. We are human beings. When we are talking about addressing human issues, we cannot say business sits here and humanity sits here. It's all one and the same. We can never forget who it is we are addressing. We are addressing this woman, and her need is urgent. It can't wait. The Millennium Goals have a 2015 date, and we're not going to make most of them because we haven't had the right partnerships. They haven't been unreasonably demanding enough. And we haven't done a good job of understanding what makes and creates a good partnership and a good synergy. At the heart of any solution to a human problem, you must start with the community. Bunker spoke, I know, about that earlier today. What does community mean? Community doesn't just mean the village. The community, when we talk about community, it means your entire ecosystem that you work within. So in our case, our community at Barefoot College is the college itself and the people that make up that organization and that place and that deliver impact for us. So this is Bhagwat Nandan. He is the head of our solar section. He was illiterate. He was a Hindu priest. Today, he designs circuit boards and has taught more than 800 women how to be solar engineers. So supporting him is the first place we have to start. Dealing openly, honestly with communities is essential. Taking the time to listen. So many of us do lots of talking, but not nearly enough listening. You cannot arrive with a good solution if you're not willing to hear what people need and what they're asking for. Those dialogues aren't always easy. We sometimes hear what we don't want to hear. We hear more challenges. We have to be prepared to be flexible, to be able to respond to those challenges, because it's not about making it our solution, it's about making it their solution. So I like to think about partnerships as concentric circles, and the places where they meet and overlap is where you will always have the most productivity. For us, our solutions start with community, both the village and the local NGO and CBO. As an organization working in 54 countries, we have 68 ground partners around the world who support locally our activities. We couldn't do what we do without each and every one of those organizations. Philanthropy. There is a drive to move philanthropy and to attract philanthropy into the world of impact investing. Impact investing is a business model. It means there's a customer at the end. We're talking about people at the bottom of the pyramid who have absolutely no possibility to become customers because they don't yet have water and light, the two most essential things to allow an even playing field for them to be able to enter any type of enterprise model. So without philanthropy, without somebody willing to take a risk to begin to level that playing field at the very bottom of the pyramid, to allow us to be able to embark on the development of a piece of technology, philanthropy is critical to that step. Philanthropy doesn't always have to come from a wealthy individual or a foundation. Philanthropy can come from the corporate sector, and has for us. There are companies who have felt that the mission and what we were doing was worth investing in without looking for an immediate return, but looking for a human return. Government. Holding governments actually accountable to support good programs, programs that show impact, things that work, things that are making a difference from groundswell, exactly as you heard before. Being able to be firm about that engagement and understanding why it is so critical that government advocate for a broad range of solutions to the developing world. There isn't just one solution. There's a range of solutions. We are very blessed. We have an outstanding partnership with the government of India, who pays all the training and travel costs of the women solar engineers from all of the countries. We also work individually in every single country we go to with local and national government. Why is that? Because every government has a rural electrification budget, right? The only solution is not a grid system that will bring traditional grid delivery of electricity to the most rural and tough areas to get to. That's not going to work. We need to educate them and to expose them to real successes on the ground and good implementation so that they can begin to take parts of their rural electrification budget and allocate them to different solutions, innovative solutions. This also takes risk. Philanthropy comes back into this circle, whether it's through private foundations or private individuals. Now it becomes a strategic partner. They become a strategic partner to attracting and driving other partners to engage with us. So they let us grow one more step. And finally, the private sector and where they can play a really important role, which is when they start to move out of a CSR component and into a marketing component. Because actually, what we're doing not only has a benefit for employees, it has a massive possibility to be leveraged as a positive goodwill and to attract customers to your products and your clients. So this is a few images about how much time it takes for us in each country we go to really develop on the ground these partnerships. Because guess what? They don't happen by email and they don't happen by phone. They happen by human contact and by us spending time listening to each and every one of those partners and again responding individually to them. We are very, very lucky because we have the United Nations, two of the large United Nations organizations who have come to know our work and have supported it. That doesn't mean that we would be interested in a partnership with everyone from the UN, but there are two organizations under the UN umbrella that we happen to work very well with because their mission and values are aligned with ours. So this is a process of selection on our part as well. We don't take money and donation from any partner. We have some criteria about who we want to work with and who we want to be involved with because we know with whom we will be successful and drive positive impact. So we work with UN Women and we work with the UNDP under the GEF Small Grants Program. Michelle Bachelet, the head of the UN Women, who has now gone back to run again for President of Chile, was a very, very strong supporter of what we do. One of the things that is unique about UN Women is their ability to make decisions slightly outside a traditional UN context. Again, a partner with a shared characteristic to us. Engagement with philanthropy is important in many respects. One of the things that we require our large major donors to do is to visit us, to work with us, to see what we do on the ground. They must understand who we are as an organization, or how can they possibly share our mission and our vision. So it's a very multidimensional relationship. So what are the characteristics of unreasonable partnerships that drive impact and that really make the case and will move the MDG goals closer to realization? I think unreasonable partnerships are human at their center. They're dynamic. They inspire, not just in one direction, but in two. They're ethical. They're unwavering in some moments. They're courageous, resolute, rigorous, adaptable, most importantly, and they succeed to leverage the story. Telling the story is critical. And as a marketing partner, if you get involved with any organization dealing with human problems and you don't find a way to leverage that story, you are absolutely not living up to your end of the part. At the end, it's about the women, because they have made this happen. They've made this happen by all of our partners believing in them as much as we do. And it's about delivering impact. We bring light to 450,000 people for about $400 a family. That's what we're really talking about. To lay grid for 1 kilometer is nearly $400,000. Catalyze innovation in your partnerships, foster growth, develop an ecosystem for quality of life improvement, and you will arrive with an enterprise model. Thank you.